I promise you the title isn't clickbait. It just describes things how they are. After getting loads of comments like this one every year, I had to make this video. It seems like a lot of people still don't know that investing your money into an X-56 might not be a good idea. Here's a brand new X-56. Its LEDs are flickering right out of the box. That's not the camera. Unplugging it and replugging it later after recording seemed to fix it, but a day later it started flickering again. I have no idea why, but let's ignore that, because it's actually the least of its problems. But Mish, some people say, you're using all your high-end gear, so you're biased. You're blowing things out of proportion. I don't think I am. I just want you to have good gear. And as you might remember, I've even said before that even the super cheap Extreme 3D Pro is an okay choice for beginners. I've even retested it recently and it's okay for the price. However, what Logitech delivers with the X-56 here just isn't convincing for 240 bucks, and I think you're better off steering clear of it. Let me show you why. The throttle still has the stiction issues people were complaining about years ago. Adjusting friction doesn't help to get it unstuck. You have to yank it back and forth a few times until it loosens up again. My unit only needs about 3 or 4 minutes of sitting still before it develops stiction again. That's horrible and should never happen at any price. On the positive side, it performs quite well as long as you keep it moving during flight. Dialing in the exact amount of thrust you want works really well. When it doesn't stick, it's actually a good throttle. It's also nice that you get a bunch of analog axes on the grip, like these two. They feel flimsy, but they get the job done. The dials on the base, however, are nice to operate and feel sturdy at the same time. The problem is, though, that most of the axes, including the main throttle, tend to jitter right out of the box. It's not really noticeable at first and only shows up if you measure it, but over time it turns into a real problem. Logitech cheaped out on the potentiometers. You can read plenty of stories about that online. The same goes for the mini stick, which also isn't contactless. Logitech didn't go premium there either. Nothing bad to say about the flip switches though. They operate nicely. Same for the snappy 3-way mode switch. On the front of the grip are 2 wobbly buttons, but at least they use tactile switches. The head switches, however, feel pretty flimsy, like something they just grabbed off the bargain rack. Even their cheapest stick, the Extreme 3D Pro, has a better one. Now you could say, but Mish, my throttle doesn't stick, or my mini stick doesn't drift, even after 4 years. Sure, that's possible. We're talking about tendencies here. Not every X-56 has all the same issues or to the same degree, but the chances of something developing over time are definitely higher than with most other setups. Now, about the stick itself. Let's put it like this. Over 200 bucks and no dual stage trigger. Just a single clicky one with very short travel and no damping, which means it stops abruptly and feels unpleasant to pull. There's also no rapid fire trigger like you get on the WinWing Ursa Minor, the VKB Gladiator Premium or the Thrustmaster Solar 1. The tactile button on the side is okay for the price. The nice and clicky lever at the base of the grip is just a button, not an axis. The plastic feels kinda cheap. The heads on the back of the grip are usable but nothing to write home about. On a $139 Gladiator, you get tactile cluster switches that are way better than these. A bigger issue is the ergonomics. 2 of the 3 heads are positioned far to the right of the thumb's natural center axis, which means you either have to bend your thumb very hard or loosen your grip to reach them comfortably. Other grips, like the one on the Ursa Minor Fighter, handle this a lot better. Now, let's move on to the gimbal. It's a carbon ball construction with a single centering spring. Depending on the spring stiffness, you can either have strong centering, which makes fine movements around the center harder to perform, or a loose stick that's precise near the center but doesn't return properly. The worst thing though is this. Listen to the grinding of plastic on plastic straight out of the box. That's the gimbal mechanism, and for over 200 bucks, that's just not okay in my book. And we haven't even talked about the ghosting issues, USB problems, and other electronics related flaws that plague this system. Now, I know some of you already have one and are perfectly fine with it. That's okay. I did some dogfighting with it myself recently, and sure, it works. I can't say it doesn't. But if you're thinking about buying one now, why settle for this when you can get something better, more durable, and simply more fun to use for the same price or even less? Many competing products tend to last much longer, have more precise gimbals, and offer real customization options. Look, I understand if you got one or want one. Many websites will still recommend it, along with the Turtle Beach flight deck, which is another story entirely. And sure, it looks great, both visually and on paper. No doubt about that, but the overall quality is just shoddy and doesn't reflect the money you pay. My advice is to skip it and either get something cheaper that performs just as well, or pay more and get something truly solid. For under $200, for instance, you can buy a WinWing Ursa Minor fighter stick together with a Thrustmaster TWCS throttle. It's still a budget product with some of its own flaws, like somewhat flimsy head switches. But the gimbal and the rest of the grip outclass the X-56 easily. It's a pincer gimbal with one spring per axis, which means a lot less friction and better centering. It also integrates adjustable dampers to smooth out the stick's movement. The TWCS also has its pros and cons, but overall it's not worse than the X-56 throttle. And it comes with a rudder rocker, so you can remove axis bleed by locking the twist on your stick. The X-56's twist axis isn't lockable, by the way, so that's not even an option if you plan to add pedals later. In the near future, the X-56's position might look even worse. With the WinWing Ursa Minor combat throttle coming in at around $150, we'll probably get a proper throttle at a bearable price. Add a VKB Gladiator to it, and the X-56 gets knocked out cleaner than Frankie Edgar. That combo costs a bit more, closer to $290, but it plays in a completely different league in terms of quality, like regional versus first national. So I hope this came across as fair and truthful. I know the X-56 has its fans, and if it works for you, great. But to me, the flaws simply outweigh the positives too much to recommend it. Check out my HOTAS overview here for a complete guide on what to get and what to avoid. Buyer's remorse sucks, and if left untreated, it sometimes drags down others with you. Thanks for stopping by, fly safe, and see you there in a second.